everything that we just laid out, it is still true, even with us, that the reason that these things happen, the reason that the negative things happen is because we suck.
Yeah,
Three of us
sure. Yeah,
suck.
sure.
And it's just a matter of looking at those things and sucking less.
That's right.
Okay. Welcome to another episode of the Valor Coffee Podcast, episode 102.
All right.
Whoa. Someone told Ethan that he sounded like Matthew McConaughey. Someone told Ross that Ethan sounded like Matthew McConaughey. So we had to give you all that
There's
one.
that sample.
That was a freebie. All right.
This week we're talking about a riveting topic, employee turnover. Really fun stuff. We dive into why this happens, and I always want to say next week's podcast, but it's not next week for everyone. Some people are going to listen to both in one day.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But on the next podcast, we're going to talk about how you can retain employees, and we're going to really give you all the answers, 100% guaranteed to work for you.
Or your money back.
Or your money back.
That's a fair promise.
We walked away from Expo with a ton of coffee, and we drank 3 coffees on this podcast. Brewed using Third Wave Water. Shout out to Third Wave Water, who is sponsoring this program.
You can also check out using code VALOR at Third Wave Water for a whopping 10% off your order.
Also want to point you guys towards Clive Coffee, where you can use code VALOR5 for 5% off Eureka and Luca products. We've got a Eureka grinder right back there behind us.
Hey.
We love it, especially you, Ross.
Mm-hmm. I've been using it a lot. It's awesome.
Yeah. Lastly, before we dive in here, if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice or YouTube. Like this program. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. The works.
4's okay. I'm good with 4. It's pretty good.
I'm not. 5 or 1 star. Don't pick anything
Dude,
in between.
That's polarizing.
I don't know.
That really helps this program,
Program.
reach more people. All right, here's the show. Welcome back to... the Valor Coffee Podcast,
Yeah.
What's up, y'all?
where we talk about valor and coffee on this podcast. I am your host, Riley Westbrook, sitting here with my business partners, Ethan Rivers and Ross Walters. Our good friend Kent is in the next room.
He's in the next room over.
Enjoying a coffee. He comes here and uses our HQ as his office, and it's cool.
Comment below if you remember Voila Specialty Instant Coffee, because Kent was the man behind Voila.
Yeah, and also comment below if you want to see Kent on the podcast, not like as a guest because he's already been one, but just like he could like come through the door and just like be around.
I mean, he's a busy guy.
Yeah,
so I don't know if he has time for that.
True.
But
He's a good guy, but he ripped open one of our bags that we were going to taste today.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know who to blame. I don't know if it's the bag manufacturer or his big old muscles. But
big paws.
yeah, he's got some big paws.
Honestly, where is it ripped? Oh, did you tape it?
No. Look on the. It's like the zipper part got ripped off.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's ruined.
So I taped it down until we could taste it right now. Look.
Do you guys have a vessel that you keep your coffee in at home?
Yes.
Yes.
The bag.
What the hell?
I only bring home pre-ground coffee
Okay.
for my doting wife, and she puts it in a vessel.
What does doting mean?
Just like
Doting means like kind.
caring.
It sounds like such an insult, dude.
What?
No,
It does though.
That's just your 2020.
I'm sorry, man. Wake up.
And my small vocabulary.
Now I'm worried, but hey,
No, because you've said that for a while, and I remember one time I looked it up. And I'm going to look it up again.
thank you, bro.
Let's just like, I know. I'm
But
not
you have
the
a
host.
vessel?
We're like it's very traditional. Like we got the coffee jar with the like little rubber gasket, and there's a
Is it
scoop.
clear?
The gasket?
No, is the jar clear?
The gasket is probably silicone
Okay.
or rubber. The jar is opaque. It is glass or ceramic.
Okay.
What's the difference?
Right.
Right? Not glass, ceramic. Yeah.
Vocab corner. Doting is someone who is loving and fond. Yeah.
Doting. That's good.
Yeah.
So I didn't mess it up.
Meredith is a doting wife.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of, I'm going to go turn off the ground control. Kent.
Ugh, here we go. For those of you who don't know, which is all of you, whenever we record this podcast, we have to turn off everything in this entire place. AC/heat, refrigerators, ground control. So we like for it to sound good. And that is a massive difference, as I'm sure you can tell.
Everybody's like, no, I can't.
I use the Fellow thing. You ever seen that?
Mm-hmm.
It really wasn't that expensive. And I think it's called like Atomos or something like that. Atomos.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And does it take the air out of the situation? Well,
I think the most compelling ad for it, did you ever see it? The ad that I'm about to reference?
No.
There was an ad where they had the glass one and they had marshmallows in it from where they had vacuum sealed it. Because that's what you do is you put the lid on and you twist the lid back and forth and it makes it a vacuum, like takes the air out by like doing this. And they did that with marshmallows or Peeps, I think. So it was full of like really compressed Peeps, and then they pressed the air release button on the top and it uncompresses and the Peeps like all enlarge. And I was like, that seems like it does a good job of creating an oxygen restricted environment.
Well, how can that be? Like, does it just lower the pressure inside? Because can't you only displace oxygen via nitrogen? It's not like it shoots nitrogen in there.
No, you can just remove oxygen.
What?
Yes.
With a vacuum?
There is no oxygen in a vacuum. That's why
there's just nothing.
You would die in space. There's nothing.
But what?
Isn't that the point of a vacuum?
How? I don't know, man.
All right, if you're a scientist, comment below. But the entire point of this thing is to take away oxygen so that your coffee doesn't oxidize.
Yeah. No, I get that. But it just seems like there's air everywhere, even in a coffee canister.
Hey, Kent!
No, I mean...
Hey, dude, vacuum. Is there no oxygen in a vacuum? Okay. It's just reduced oxygen. But because it's reduced, so what's the point of like vacuum seal coffee canisters? Oh, I see. The ground control is also a vacuum. So like my Fellow, we're talking about my Fellow thing, and okay.
Yeah, but okay, if you vacuum seal you know how you got those vacuum seal packs that you could like put like, I don't know, food in and vacuum seal?
Chicken.
The whole reason it restricts the oxygen is because the vessel literally gets smaller.
Mm-hmm.
But with a vacuum, is that what happens with this Fellow thing? Like it goes down?
I don't think it gets smaller. I think it just gets more pressurized. Thanks, Kent.
Okay. I still don't believe all of this, but
Our brains are like, how can there be nothing if you're removing? Then you have to add. Well, then, air is what? 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, other stuff, other gases in there. We all learned that in school.
right.
So I get your thought of like, well, if you're trying to remove the oxygen, you just have to fill up that 21% with more nitrogen.
Yeah. To
But-
me, I would think surely it has to get smaller on the inside for there to actually be a displacement of air.
We're losing.
Clearly, that
credibility.
is not the case because of the thing that I referenced earlier with the marshmallows. Clearly, air is displaced because, and like it is a pressurized environment.
It vacuums.
Yes, because it is a vacuum.
Because I guess there can be multiple. There can be air, but it can be a varying degree of pressure.
Yes.
And vacuum's one of those weird words that has two U's. Like there's that too.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
They think there's
Well,
something
that's a really good time to talk about this episode's sponsor.
Oh, perfect. hook.
vacuums.
Perfect. hook.
Speaking of science and scientists, today all of this coffee on the table was brewed with third wave water.
Which packet did you use, bro?
The classic light roast profile. That one.
Oh yeah, we love third wave water. You just rip a packet open, put it in your distilled water, and I can promise you it's going to be better than whatever crap you're using at home.
Yeah, whatever you're doing is crap.
I started using third wave water at home, coming from my fridge filter, and my coffee has been tasting vibrant, interesting,
Dynamic.
dynamic,
Do you remember the percentage you said
Balanced.
last week?
and really good. I think I said it was like 60%
60%
better.
better.
60%. Yeah.
You
Third
still-
wave water is not guaranteed to make your coffee 60% better, but in my case, it did.
Wow.
Sure.
So, yeah, they've got a lot of profiles from light roast, medium, dark roast, espresso. I use the light roast profile, which is also their classic profile, and their espresso profile, and I'm pleased. So, thank you to Third Wave Water for sponsoring this episode. Also got that gorgeous
Oh.
work of art in the background from them.
Look, sponsorship aside, these coffees do taste,
They taste
more.
awesome.
They do taste more.
I would say vibrant is a good word to describe them.
Even here where we have a pretty expansive filter system. So,
Dude, expansive is the funniest word because it just sounds like you're saying expensive.
expansive and expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
I
expensive.
couldn't tell if you misspoke or if you actually thought it was expansive.
I mean, why would you call that expansive?
Well, yeah.
Camera, can we get a camera on that?
It's
You're
a
gonna pan
4-stage
over.
water filter, so that's pretty expansive.
Our water filter is also flying in this space. It's like up towards the ceiling.
Yeah.
And it also
that's why
like
I'm
goes to our
looking up.
toilets, so
It does.
everything is
It's all
really high
filtered.
Rest
quality.
assured.
Yeah. So I think we should probably check our water here because it's supposed to be really awesome.
I really want to do a side-by-side brew, distilled third wave, and then what we're working with here.
We should.
That would be really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we're tasting 3 coffees today because we just after crying and complaining for weeks about how no one sends us coffee, when we went to SCA, we got a ton of coffee, and right, it's kind of crazy.
You
Yeah.
got chills, bro.
I really did.
So it is fun to see how brewing up 3 different coffees is in general, but then I think it's going to be more fun to do what you're talking about. And
What
do
are these
one-
3 coffees?
whew, I can start with one over here. We got a churroso from Prodigal. Churroso just kind of came into our world hot and heavy, huh? I feel like I didn't know about it, and I honestly think a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah, it's
No.
a heavy. It was a heavy competition coffee this
Yeah.
year for sure.
Just a really high quality variety, kind of akin to a geisha for anyone out there that's like, what's a churroso? And I don't have much else to say on it, frankly, unless, a Ross or a Riley wants to say something.
Well, I don't know if you said this, but it's a varietal,
Yes.
like a variety of coffee, similar to geisha.
Yep.
And we have a churroso on our menu, so I was really excited to try this one.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's cool because I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or in a video you just made, but the kind of hot trend right now is experimentation and processing, which is really cool. I'm super pro that across the board as far as like how it can highlight farmers and kind of bring some more credibility to their name and recognition to their name. But sometimes like some other things can get lost in that, whether that's like the variety they're using. So it's always fun to spotlight like what makes that specific subspecies of coffee special,
Yeah, that's a question I have is how much does the quality of the coffee itself matter whenever you are fermenting it with raspberries, Like how if you have a churroso or a geisha and you did that versus you have a typica, just like classic coffee variety. This churroso is like $20 a pound green. Typica is like $4 a pound green. And you process them the same way. How much would that matter? That's a question I have that I don't know the answer to.
I mean, I can tell you from the stance of washed. If you're talking about varietals, I think it would make a vast difference. Yeah,
Right, but I'm talking about
you're talking about co-fermenting.
Yeah, if you're co-fermenting something, how much does that matter?
I asked Lucas from Unblended this whenever we were cupping the most recent time he was here, and he said that it does make a difference.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
It's just to what extent.
I can't
right?
remember. He gave me some very specific thing about like a note or like a specific difference it makes, and I wish that I could remember what it was. Like I feel like he said that like a lower priced varietal would be more like cardboardy or something like that.
Hey,
I
lock
get that.
that in.
And then he
He said it.
But I think the co-ferments we were tasting were like pink bourbon or something like that. So like not a
Yeah.
cheap or easy to grow varietal.
Dude, those pink bourbon samples from Unblended were incredible.
They were gas.
Yes.
All gas, no break.
Yeah, I think I saw Methodical pick one of those up.
Nice.
The washed one.
Ethan.
Need to try
need
that.
to.
But yeah, anyways.
And thank you to Scott for shouting our podcast out on Instagram. We
Yeah,
appreciate
if
that.
you guys are listening because of Scott's shout out, we just want to say welcome.
And Scott, if for some reason you decide to listen to another episode, then we would
Tune
love to
out,
have you
bro.
on. So let's do it.
The second coffee is from Cat and Cloud
Yes.
from Ethiopia.
Let's go.
This one is popping.
Yeah.
Okay,
one
wait.
is it?
No, honestly, I was drinking from this.
Is it this one?
Yeah, I haven't had it yet.
This is the Churroso.
I know, Ross. I made the Troso twice because I was having a hard time with it, dude. I made
Yeah, talk about your experience. with
I
that.
made the first two,
It's okay.
the Jubala and the Cat and Cloud, and it was like pretty normy on the Hario switch. I'm new to that brewer in general. I mean, I understand the concept, and it's just a Hario with a immersion feature, which is awesome. But man, I kept coarsening up, and it kept taking a long time, and I'm like,
Well, I've heard that you can only brew prodigal coffees on the Filter 3.0 or the next level Pulsar. They just don't work otherwise.
Interesting.
they have like a code in them that's like
this,
stop working.
well,
I'm
this
joking.
tastes really, really good.
It really does.
Yeah, and it wasn't on those brewers.
I know. I was like, well, I guess if it's gonna take forever, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, it was like a 6-minute brew time for at least the second one. But they both are slappy.
And speaking of Cat and Cloud,
Oh,
can I say this?
I didn't even say whenever we were talking about third wave water, just really quickly, that
Yeah.
if you use code VALOR at checkout, you can get 10% off
Of their products.
of their products.
That's awesome.
So use the link to Third Wave Water's website down below and buy some Third Wave Water, please, and thank you.
My 19-year-old self is starstruck and freaking out because we have a collab podcast with Cat and Cloud, specifically Jared Truby.
specifically you, right?
Yeah, me and Jared are going to get on a couple hot mics.
Jared said there was no way in HE double hockey sticks that he was talking to me and Ethan on a podcast.
Well, he said, give me your best basketball player and we'll give you ours. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Jared.
And it would just so happened to be Ross and Jared already talking as well.
yeah. But
Yeah.
if there's like an ultimate frisbee moment later with another coffee company, that could be me.
For those of you that don't know our storied past with Cat and Cloud, they are one of the reasons we're sitting here on these hot mics, because they had and currently have a coffee podcast that they've been doing since like 2015, something like that.
Yeah, 2015 or
Around there.
2016.
Yeah, and I feel like, at least from where I sit, it was like the first big coffee podcast, or first like notable one that a lot of people listen to across the nation, across the world. So we gained a lot of helpful knowledge from that podcast. I remember the first time I ever heard about a brew ratio was on that podcast. I remember driving home from a gig late at night listening to that podcast. And he was like, so a brew ratio, you take the dose and you multiply it times 16, and that's drip coffee. And then espresso, you multiply it times 2, and that's espresso. And I was like, what?
Dude.
What?
That's kind of crazy.
Like, it's lit. And
It is lit.
And so, yeah, I'm so excited to chat more with him. Still hoping we can play basketball together one day. It almost happened
We'll fly you out there.
at SCA, but didn't. But anyway, so yeah, we've got one of their coffees here. And our third coffee.
This is a coffee from Jubala Coffee. We ran into them at Loring's booth
That's right.
and kind of just got talking to them, and we traded bags. And
They're
this
super
is a Colombia Finca Sierra Morena pink bourbon washed.
Speaking of pink bourbon.
Yeah. Notes of pink lemonade, nectarine, and white flowers.
White flowers.
Yeah. So all I know about Jubala is that they roast on a luring.
I'll tell you this. One note on the packaging is it's recycled, something like that.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And you can tell it is because it's really thin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still nice though.
Yeah.
Some bags are thin and they're all crinkly, and like if you touch it the wrong way or look at it the wrong way, it has like a permanent wrinkle. But this, I don't know. I like it. I have to figure out where they got this bag.
Jubala, where did you get the bag? The Cat and Cloud, I think it was the first time some of us had seen their new packaging.
Yeah.
And I love it as well.
That's got to be Savor, right? It looks like a Savor product.
It's
definitely
it's
an
looking
SB.
savor. Well, let's talk.
Can I do my question?
Yeah, let's talk about your question.
Okay. I was thinking about this on the way in, right? Post Frisbee, listen to last week's pod, thinking about tasting all these coffees, and I was like,
That's why you were running late.
yeah,
You
I was
were
running late
thinking
because I was in the parking lot. And she's like, I gotta like get to the end of this point before I can start driving. What is a coffee shop or coffee company that you have like some coffee shop envy for? Like, who are you looking at right now? And you're like, that's good. They did a good job.
Mhm.
And I want to be more like that.
Specifically coffee shop or just company?
I'd say or roastery for sure.
Okay.
Take all the time you need. We can edit the thinking out,
I bet you already know yours. So
I mean, my first thought was always Cat and Cloud, but I was trying to think of something else, and I haven't thought of it yet.
Well, what about them? You don't have to envy them, but like
I know envy is a strong word. I'm just like admire.
And I guess like what you mean by that is like, and I'm putting words in your mouth. Is that
Thank
cool?
you. Yep.
You admire it and you're like, man, we're not really there. And I don't really know how to get there. At least not right now.
Well, yeah. And it's hard sometimes with a lot of that. You don't get the full picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was really cool. They brought a lot of their team to SCA, and a lot of their team seemed like very involved in the operation and very like into coffee, and like they had only worked there for, a handful of years. But I did realize I think a lot of them had background in coffee as well. But I think that's always something I want to, and I was so grateful that Sam and Luke joined us at SCA. I thought that was really cool. And I do think that it'll probably just keep growing from there. But that's always something I've admired. I feel like they do. And I have never been, but when I just see them and met them, I was like, I feel like they do an awesome job of like bringing their people up. And they've had people that have worked with them for a long time. And I'm like, I always want to grow in that,
Yeah. Tanner. Remember Tanner?
Yes, I remember Tanner, dude. Frequent listener of the pod. Come on. What's coming to mind
He
for you
listens
guys?
to the podcast?
No, I was just saying on their
back
podcast.
in the
He would
day.
be on.
Okay. All right.
He would be on their podcast, and I'd be like, "This is fun. I like when
Yeah.
Tanner's on the podcast."
That's a deep cut, but he was one of their like early hires.
I want to know who's that for us, because we have some people on. It's got to be Lillaby, right? Like,
people do like when Lillaby's on.
Like-
If you like when Lillaby is on, smash like.
yeah. Or if you want to shout out someone else that was on the podcast,
Comment below.
comment below.
But we'll know that
And
likes
subscribe.
are for a little
And
bit.
if you haven't subscribed,
We don't say that enough,
It's true.
does that really push the needle?
Yes, it really does.
There's a reason why.
If
it's
you
a
just
meme.
smash like because we just said smash like, comment below that you did that.
and then subscribe.
Am I the
Yeah.
opposite then? I hear it. I'm like, well, now I don't want to do it. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
yeah.
Well, you're just like
I'm a turd though.
you're a
You do that. I
like
think
an anarchist.
I think that it's like a meme now that it's like comment, like, and subscribe, smash like, because so many people say it, because that's how the algorithm works. Like engagement drives the algorithm. Ethan,
All right, I need
you're not
you-
even on.
Do you know what the
social media.
algorithm?
The only algorithm you have is on
Your Google,
Google.
feed.
Google.
Google News.
Why don't you tell the people?
How I get my news?
Yeah.
If you
Go to google.com.
I have a Google Pixel phone that Riley told me to get a long time ago, and
Always my fault.
I'm stuck in like Google Fi as my phone provider. It's just whatever. And if you like open up the Chrome app, it gives you like suggested news articles, probably based on how they know everything about your life. And it's just like articles about movies or football. And so I'll just like look at it, and that'll be my.
And then if there's a football movie, that's like right at the top.
Like
It's
draft
like-
day.
It's like Facing the Giants 2, like pre-production.
Game plan.
Yeah. Shot list.
Yeah. Ross, how about you?
Oh, coffee stuff. Yeah.
Coffee envy, yeah.
Man, there are times where I taste a coffee and I'm just like, dang, that is better than anything we've roasted. And I don't know how. I don't know how to replicate that. And it's like, and I love our coffees, like, especially right now. I think our menu's incredible. But like this churroso, like, man, this is so vibrant, you know? And we've only tasted our churroso, I think 2 or 3 times at this point.
Hey, it's a hot commodity on the bar these days. I'm drinking it about every day.
That's great.
Yeah, and I have to pay the full price, $10
Right.
for the cup. So
Dang.
Yeah.
That must be hard. I don't know. I think about in my line of work in wholesale, I've said this before, but I love what Methodical does. I feel like they have really good ideas. They have ideas that, like, when I see them, I'm like, I should have thought of that.
that's a good idea.
That's a good idea. And it's like I guess the frustrating but also inspiring part of it is we all have access to the same things. Like I know that we have different levels of resources and money and facility and all that, but that's not really what I'm talking about. They have ideas that like we could have done. And I'm not saying we're trying to be like them
They
at
just
all.
have the Chat GPT like premium subscription, and we don't.
Oh, okay,
That's
that's it. That's it. But, you know, for example, they work with Unblended as well, which is one of our favorite importers. And they have what, in case you don't know, Unblended's mission is to make coffee farming an exciting career path for young people in Columbia. And
Make coffee farming great again. Yeah.
yeah, make it great again.
Their words, not ours.
And so they're bringing in all these coffees that are grown by young farmers in Colombia. And Methodical brings in a few, you know, and they have this young farmers program. And it's like this little badge that they put on their bag. Like this was produced by a young farmer. And it's like, dang it, man, like that's a good idea. And it's easy. That's the kind of stuff that bugs me, but like also inspires me is just easy stuff. How you can just position something to the market. And really all it is like conveying who you are to the market. And I think we're really, you know, once Lyndon gets here, everything's going to be solved, right? But
Right, Lyndon?
yeah,
Thank
You're
you,
listening,
man.
right?
no, we're hiring someone who has worked with us a lot in the past. I'm sure we talked about it in the program at some point, but she's going to be helping with more marketing, visual stuff, basically helping Riley out with social media, design, etc., photography. And so we're going to be able to have more of those materials. Yeah. So that kind of stuff I love. And who knows if that makes them like their coffee fly off the shelves or whatever. But when you're scrolling on that website, let's say it's the first time you're ever looking at it and it's like, oh, they have a little sticker on that one. What's that all about? And then you click on it. It's like, oh, Young Farmers Program. And then you read about it on the website.
Next thing you know, your wallet's out of your pocket and you're buying it. And you're like, wow, what happened?
Yeah.
I
like
blacked out.
Apple Pay just comes up, or Google Pay for you comes
Thank you,
up
yeah.
on the phone, and and it reads your face, and then $18 out of your bank account. So that's probably my answer.
Very nice. Good job, Methodical. I have a little bit of a different answer. I'm going to be a little different.
Starbucks.
I am currently envying Elijah and Elliot,
Oh yeah.
his new cafe.
Oh yeah.
I see he's taking this is really cool. I think this is cool. So much of what he's doing is so different than the things that we have done,
Mm-hmm.
especially like the way he is guiding the people along the journey of his build out.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's posting every single thing, and we didn't do that at all. We intentionally made it like a mystery, but I understand why you want to do that because I'm seeing this and I'm so excited. I'm so
Right.
excited to go to
Drives
Dayton,
engagement.
Kentucky.
It's on your mind.
Yeah, and I am envying him because building out a space is so hard, but it's so fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I already miss doing it.
Uh-oh.
Easy.
Uh-oh.
I'm not- I don't-
Easy
I'm
tiger.
not
Got
saying-
baby fever.
I'm not saying we're gonna do it.
Cafe baby fever.
But when I saw those floors get painted blue and I saw his bench seating get put in and I'm seeing like a table and I think he's getting chairs this week.
They're gonna have chairs.
They're gonna have chairs.
And he's getting it this week.
He got his EK.
Holy freaking crap!
He can brew coffee
He got his EK at wholesale price through Valor Coffee Wholesale.
through Valor because of his partnership.
And you can get an EK too.
So
Anyone.
I'm seeing all of that and I'm seeing how his cafe is going to shape up and it's going to be so different than Valor,
yeah.
but I like it.
Well, he's documenting such a, like, honestly visually ugly thing.
Yeah.
Like construction is not always
Granted, he's doing
Pretty.
it really well because if anyone can, it's
right,
Same
but
it's
pictures like-
that little artsy.
he's
artsy
doing
guy.
it. He's doing it in such an elegant, intentional way that makes
Yeah.
you want to follow along. So
Well, if anyone's gonna have a killer cafe, I mean, this dude's been a student of cafes
True.
for probably over a decade now,
Mm.
and has really taken things probably from. I hope I'm not putting words in his mouth. That he's taken things from us, and it's not going to look like us at all. He's taking things from David at Sidetrack and Press, where he used to work for a long time in Ohio, and all these other cafes he's visited around. And I mean, I think it's going to be killer.
Yeah, me too.
So if you're on planet Earth, go check that out.
Yeah, follow cafe.elliot on Instagram. Cafe
Two L's?
period Elliot.
Two L's,
L's.
two T's.
2 L's, 2 T's. Because it's going to be awesome. And there's nothing that would make me want to drive to Dayton, Kentucky more, except just to hang out with Elijah.
Right.
which is like 15 minutes from Cincinnati.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think my plan for us that I'm kind of just like
Cooking.
throwing upon you guys is that we're going to drive up, hang out with Elijah, go to his brand new cafe, hit a distillery or two on the way back as we're driving through Lexington, Kentucky. You know, the works.
Mm.
And then like drive.
Yeah, you're
After-
going to drive.
Okay.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, he's gonna be featuring some other roasters too.
Wait,
he'll
what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Actually, let's edit this part out.
Oh,
I'm just
man.
kidding.
No, yeah,
I'm
he'll
just
have like a feature thing, and then I think he'll use free throw on espresso. So
Nice.
I'm stoked.
Very cool. Well, the reason I've gathered you guys here today is to talk about something a little tricky with many coffee shop owners out there, and that is employee turnover.
Ooh.
Ooh, what
Why-
a bummer topic.
I know, we were having so much fun. Why is it so hard to get people to stay around in this industry? Oftentimes, I know there have been periods where have felt like our company is a revolving door
Mm.
of we get a new hire, we're excited about them, and then one of our stars is like, "This is my notice.
Whoa.
I'm moving to
Taking
Los.
my
I'm moving to
talents.
I'm taking my talents to Los
South
Angeles to
South
be
Beach.
on YouTube."
Right.
That just keeps happening. People keep starting YouTube careers,
Yeah.
and I'm you know what? I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
I'm just
Enough's
kidding.
enough.
But I want to dive in there. That's why I wrote this podcast
Thank you.
about this topic.
Right.
So I think I'll just take it from here. You guys can leave.
I'm going to keep sipping on this churro.
So what y'all think?
Maybe we could just start by like just blanket statement. What would you say is the number one thing that comes to your mind of why there's high turnover? At least at our coffee shops.
Ooh. Well, I think it's a different reason. I think in general, people leave jobs because they don't like the people they work with. And that's why most people stay at jobs, is they like the people they work with. I think whether you like it or not, that's like a cold hard fact almost. Like if you're having a good time somewhere, just because you're around people you like hanging out with and working with, you're going to stay longer.
How have you gathered that conclusion?
I have gathered that conclusion through interviews. And I think you would agree that when you ask someone about their former work and you say, what was the best part of your job? Oh, the people I worked with. 90% of the time.
It's true.
Yeah.
Or like what was difficult about your last job? It's like, I don't know. I feel like through the interview, we arrive at the fact that they didn't like their coworkers. But when you ask them at the top of the interview that question, they're kind of like, they don't want to seem red flaggy.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh yeah, the people were great. And then you like start to talk about the actual dynamics. But yeah, I would agree. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me, just the most basic reason that turnover is high in the coffee industry, specifically, we're specifically talking about baristas here in coffee shops, is it's a low paying job.
Yeah.
Which has been a very central topic to the Valor Coffee podcast, barista wages. If you haven't checked out our episode with Chris DiFiorio of Keys to the Shop, that's what we talked about.
Powerful ep.
Very good. I was wearing this shirt.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I would have to agree with you. That was going to be also what I would have had said if you would not have had said it before me.
Yeah,
Right.
just think about if you get a job and it doesn't pay you a lot of money, that can only work for so long because you're getting older.
Yeah.
And then that means that you might want to add something to your life, like a kid or like
a dog,
or you
or
might want
mortgage.
to move out of your parents' house.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, that all necessitates like a move forward money wise. So first thing that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, I would tag on that it's not even that it's a pretty entry level, low paying job a lot of times, but beyond that, there's just not that many positions at many companies to move up into unless you're at a large corporate company, and then there's a big lack of appeal there as well. So a part of being a barista at an independent coffee shop is that's a pretty cool, seemingly cool job.
Mm-hmm.
You get there and then it's like there's one general manager, and that's like maybe the career position. But that general manager is probably just in that job for a hot minute.
Or it might be the owner.
Owner.
Like you're definitely not getting that job.
Yeah. So there's just a lack of upward mobility. That's what instantly kind of comes to mind for me.
Yeah, I guess especially with an independent shop. And there are more and more like, I don't know if you'd call us medium-sized by any means, but more than one location places. And that was a big driving force that we've talked about before. It's like that is a perk, is that you're able to grow those spots. And we're still figuring out what all of those spots are, as we grow in different ways.
Well, so many people start at a corporate company. Not so many people, but it's like, I'm thinking about that I think you should leave bit where it's like Shark Tank, and that one guy's like, I started in the mailroom and made my way to the boardroom. There's nothing wrong with starting in the mailroom and making your way to the boardroom, but there's also nothing wrong with getting a bunch of money from being sewn into the pants of the Charlie Brown at the Thanksgiving parade.
I haven't seen that.
No, you're with it. You get it. Well, what I was thinking too is
Don't worry, listeners. I'm lost too.
even as being like a server at a restaurant, you can kind of like move up in like the scale of restaurants and like end up making pretty good money as like a server at, like a Michelin star restaurant or something. But that is interesting. I feel like there's this kind of like nationwide cap on coffee, more or less, due to like production. Like one can only make so much. And I'm sure there's plenty of exceptions to that rule. But that is one thing. It's like, and that's paired with people love coffee. I think there's probably a lot less people that are like, I really want to work at an auto parts store because I love auto parts. People love cars, but having such high expectations for a career and then getting hit with like maybe seeing the lack of mobility in a space, that can cause bitterness and disappointment rather quickly. And that kind of forces you to make a decision on, do I want to make this a career, or is coffee just a thing that, I work in insurance, but I really have like a fun coffee rig at home. And that's like how I scratch that itch.
Yeah. I think that kind of pairs along with people being new to the industry. It's they have that hobby and they find joy from it, and then they dive in on that position that opens up and turn it into a job, and then they might not like it. And
Right.
They might be like, there are other paths I can explore, and I can still make coffee at home.
Because once you get in that job of being a barista, say you work behind the bar 30 hours a week and you're, 6 months into it, there's probably some things about that job that you didn't expect, obviously.
Yeah.
A while back, there was this reel that we had, this TikTok, that went viral, and it was of me.
Here we go.
And basically, I was saying, and maybe this can go viral too, if we play our cards right. But basically, I was just saying that people get into the coffee industry because they like coffee, but what they don't realize is that there's this other, probably like bigger aspect of being a barista, which is the people side of like interacting, having these tiny interactions with tons and tons and tons of people every single day, over and over and over every day, and that's all you do. And people that get into the coffee industry for the coffee side often don't think about that side of it, and they can just become socially burnt out because of a variety of reasons. But have you guys seen that play out in our company or places you've worked in the past, of like people, they like the coffee, like they want to like tinker with the dialing in and like and all that stuff, but there's other parts of the job that end up being the reason they leave?
Yes. I think that we've seen a lot of people who don't know how much they don't enjoy like serving people. I'm not saying that as like a shot to anyone.
Yeah.
But it just comes way more natural to some people than others. So once you're in that environment, especially at a place like Valor, where that's very core to our brand, and then it's like super empathy focused, especially if someone's coming from I like black coffee and straight espresso background. It's a hard place to meet.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I think we've had more, if you reverse the roles, we've had more people that we've hired that love service, kind of don't give a rat's hat about coffee. And then it's like, why would I want to grow in a coffee industry? And you can kind of plateau yourself on the other side of that spectrum of like, when push comes to shove and we're talking about, either raises or feedback or this or that, it's like, yeah, we really want you to like learn more about coffee and dive in. They're like,
Right.
So
they're like, that's not why I got into this.
Yeah.
I got into this to make drinks and like give people hospitality.
Yeah. Which is awesome. That is huge. But if you're thinking about like, where do you want to be for a long time? You probably don't want to be there for a long time if you're not passionate about Java.
Java.
And then if you are there for a long time, especially if you're not super aligned, or even if you are, you're in this position for a while. You know, maybe some things aren't aligning. There's no upward mobility, like we were talking about, like the owners, the GM. There's, you know, you're not making enough to sustain a mortgage, so on and so forth. You can burn out pretty quickly, right? What is burnout? You guys ever been burnout?
Moving close. I think burnout happens when you lose, at least for me, when I lose vision, when I lose hope, when I lose purpose for what I'm doing. Because like hope is such a powerful thing, and vision is such a powerful thing that like this is why I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So on the hard days, you're able to push through and still have a reason to do that. You know, like the biggest example of that for me is parenting. Like if I lack vision for my children, then like when my youngest is just screaming her head off for the millionth time in a day, like I have to go back to like, I don't know. I don't consciously think like she's going to be a great adult one day and that's why I'm going to not lose it right now. I don't think that, but I think it's just, it's more of a subconscious, like that's what fuels love for something is vision and purpose. So it can be easy to lose vision and purpose in a barista job because you might be thinking like, yo, I'm like moving out of the house at my parents' house next year. And like this job really can't sustain that. And I don't want roommates or like whatever it is. So that can even just be like as simple as not enough money could be. The reason you leave the job because the vision that you're chasing after needs to involve more money.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned employee beef. Care to comment?
Yeah, I would say I would say employee beef is lower than like owner or like leadership beef. You know, I feel like you kind of hear that a lot more. Like the reason people stay often is the camaraderie and the community and the team. But then usually, and we've seen employee beef be at some reasoning for someone to move on, and that's real. But we also push really hard for feedback and like conflict resolution and making space for people to be heard and providing context and grace. So thankfully that's not a huge one, but I think at least in interviews and talking to people about their past work experiences, especially in wherever they are, but in coffee too, a lot of it is just that misalignment with ownership, you know? And you could say misalignment, but honestly, the way that I hear a lot of stories go, it seems like a misunderstanding because there's like a lack of conversation, you know? And that's been really eye-opening ever since we talked to Chris in our Keys to the Shop episode about that kind of like owners can kind of have just a starting point of a negative connotation. So we really do have work to do as far as like making sure that we're all on the same page. Because then I think it touches exactly to vision. It's like, well, if I don't want to work with these people or I can't grow with these people if I don't understand them, so I'm going to move on, you know? And just the more years you get under your belt of working with people, if there's not like resolved conversations, you're not sticking around.
Right.
You're out of there.
Yeah. Well, what do you think are some of the main ways, like as of the three of us, the one that is over the cafes, you can help our team understand you?
Right. Yeah, because we have almost 30 people that work at Valor now, right? And we have 5 to 6 leaders around, you know? And so in theory, that's like, it's not a perfect split because, you know, you both and Sam are both pretty involved at the roastery. So that's like 3 leaders here. And so we have 2 cafe leaders and myself. So one point of that is just like removing yourself as the sole responsibility. Obviously there is responsibility to take on myself. But knowing that you've like established leaders to look after people, I think is really important. So I'm not trying to negate any like responsibility, but knowing who you're like looking after, I think is really key. And knowing that everyone in this company is being looked after, you know? So like, I worked in Alfredo the last couple of days and I've been in Dunwoody the last 4 months. And I'm like, I'm kind of hit with those conflict of emotions of like, man, it's so good seeing these people. And I'm like, man, I don't know these people as much as I like personally want to. And then I'm like, well, I know this is like a kind of tough pill to swallow. It's like, well, that's why we pay Littleby. Littleby knows these people way more than me. And she tends to them and she supports them and looks after them and calls them higher and lets me know who deserves a raise, you know? And we have those systems in place. Now, one thing that is just like another hard pill to swallow is like that all kind of doesn't matter a little bit too, of like they also, people that work for a company also want and probably sometimes expect to see the owners around, you know, whether they have a Savvy or a Littleby or a Sam here. You know, it's like they also still just want to know that the people who started this thing know them and appreciate them. That is hard. That is like I don't know what to do there because it's hard to know like 30 people well. But I think trying is great. I do get pretty mobile with my work and I end up in most places, but I think I have a lot more peace knowing like wherever we're established, like there are leaders in place to look after everybody.
Another relatively simple factor is that a lot of times people who are applying for and filling barista jobs are young and they might be in college.
Yeah.
And they haven't really started what they would consider their long-term career path yet. So they might graduate or have an opportunity arise and then suddenly they're jumping to UGA to go to school.
Right. Or grad school.
Grad school. Or, they were in school at Georgia State and working at Valor, and then they graduate and they move to
Timbuktu,
Mobile, Alabama.
Right.
To start their job.
Right. Isn't that just a really like difficult dynamic to operate in? Is that you can hire a bunch of people and then everybody has different reasons for why they're there and it will thus have like different endpoints that would count as like a win. Because in coffee, there's so many people that like desire careers in coffee and know that they have to start like working in a cafe basically and see how they move around or just see how, through other cafes or with us, get raises and just still remain in a cafe. And they could be there for years and years and years. But there's a lot of companies that are willing to hire people who are like, yes, I'm going to work with you while I finish college. And I'll be here for the next 18 months. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard.
Yeah. And I think early on, we had the mentality of we don't want to hire someone like that because they don't foresee themselves having a career in coffee.
Mm-hmm.
We want to only hire people that could be full-time and be working with us indefinitely.
Yep.
And I think we pretty quickly realized that that's not what I don't know. I was going to say that's not realistic. Maybe it is for someone, but that's hard to only find people that want a long-term career in coffee to work at your coffee shop.
Well, that just directly punches the other idea of lack of upward mobility. Because if you have 10 pit crew members or baristas and you have one GM spot, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then the moment someone becomes a GM, that you could potentially lose, how many 5 people that are like, I wanted that spot. And now I have to go find another one.
Yeah.
Hey, not saying that that's never happened for us because of that diversity of intention. But regardless, you still have that where, you have people side by side potentially getting paid this exact same amount. And one person's like, I want this to be like my thing. And the other person may be super awesome to be there, but they're like, yeah, I'm leaving soon. It's kind of like I always use the illustration of like a river. You know, we're kind of on the dock. We're here, and you have these people for a season, and that's it. You can tend to them, and that's one of my favorite things about Valor. It is one of the hardest things is watching people go, but knowing that we get to like care for, like shape,
plant some seeds.
Yeah, hopefully whatever they gained here is only going to positively impact them in their next gig.
Yeah, and it is business as well in that like we're getting a return on investment while they're there because we really believe in them and like we're watching them produce that. But the vision is so much higher for like we want you to run with that for the rest of your life, and it doesn't have to be a Valor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want Lilby uses the term like playground. She's like, we want this to be like a playground for you to like work on your growth and work on your skills and work on developing who you are at work. And like, you can try things here. And then you can carry that with you into your next journey. And I've seen a lot more people or just heard about people with visions, like leaning into that of like viewing, you know, if you come work at Valor, you can be a part of this like 2-year program, you know, and we've never really talked about this, but like you just commit, like, it's almost like I will be here and I will serve. And I know that I'll get this out of it and I'll give you my work in return, you know, kind of a crazy concept. Almost,
that's funny.
Almost like a coffee discipleship school.
So one final factor before we move on to how to remedy this entire situation, 100% guaranteed. Sometimes we create the turnover ourselves because we hire someone who wasn't a good fit. And the reality of the situation is it's not going to work out. And I think you'd call that turnover. Yeah.
Oh,
because you have to make a decision. And it is, am I going to let this person go? Or am I going to, another, factor here is if you keep, conveying your values to someone who isn't a good fit, it's just likely that they are going to quit and it's not going to work out for them.
Mm-hmm. That's just a reality, right? Of like, if you have high standards for your company, you like are communicating what you want for your culture and your team and your cafes or roastery. And when there's conflict with that, you can either step in or step out and be like, well, they do this well. So the end.
Well, we didn't talk about this in our extensive prep, but there is a huge cost associated with turnover.
Yeah.
The whole thing that you've probably heard of, it costs you this much to fire someone, hire someone, train them, get them up to speed. It costs you whatever amorphous
$1,000
amount of money.
Yeah, $5 million.
And what you have to do is weigh that with how much is my culture worth? Is it worth that amount? If I'm considering firing someone, are they? I know that everyone's brain doesn't work this mathematically, but like, are they causing a $6,000 amount of damage to my company? You can't really actually answer that question, but
yeah,
I think that way sometimes. We're like, it doesn't even have to be with employees, but hey, we're having this problem. What is the scale of this problem? And what's it going to cost to fix it? Because if we really want to fix this problem, what's that going to mean?
Yeah.
We're going to have to do this, 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 and this. Should we just live with this problem or like solve it later and see if it fixes itself?
Usually things just fix themselves.
Right. That's sort of the running theory is everything just, sorts itself out.
That is not true.
That's not true at all. But let's just zoom in just for, if I may, zoom in for a second on what is the cost associated with turnover? Like let's say unexpected turnover, where not saying the situation of, someone said they would be with us for a year or whatever, but like we have to let someone go or they quit. What are like the pangs of that situation?
Pangs. Well, you touched on a really, I feel like deep, real thought that probably many managers and business owners have when they're assessing a situation of like, I think this person probably should be let go. But then you do start weighing like, oh, but then who's going to work all those shifts? And how do we hire someone? Do we hire someone just to replace them? And then you're like, well, we can just keep giving them feedback. And then it's obviously you have to make a decision at some point. But yeah, I mean, you can let someone go and then, what if you have to close early for the foreseeable future because you literally don't have enough people to stretch and you've already stretched yourself? That's a reality. You may not have anybody in the wings, that is just like ready to go. At least what we hear from the world at large is everybody's like, nobody's can find enough people right now, which is crazy. It's kind of a lot of people in the world. It's like billions. I'm like, come on. But yeah, there's a lot of costs. And I mean, if you pie charted my work week, hiring emails and setting up interviews and phone interviews, that's a slice. That's a legit slice. And so that's like, oftentimes we haven't figured out exactly how to like, let premium chat GBT just handle that. Yeah.
GBT.
Or chat GPT for that matter.
GBB.
Companies have entire departments for this.
Yeah.
Like talent acquisition.
That's what we need.
And that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's all a result of turnover. Or it's a result of an expanding company that needs more roles. That's a good thing.
Yeah. And then you have to fill more roles than you lose.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the same amount that you lose, more when you're growing. That's crazy. Hey, we're pretty doom and gloom on this episode. And if you are feeling like, oh, I guess I'm just going to have to deal with this, next week, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about how you can remedy this.
Employee retention?
Yeah. How to retain employees.
I
like it.
And with this entire thing in scope, maybe we can go down the list and say, how do we fix this? And then we're going to fix it all. And then we're never going to lose another employee again.
Hey, one thing I would love to hear too across the next week is if you have an answer to that you didn't hear. If we're talking about why do people quit coffee jobs, let us know.
I mean, one we didn't say because we're kind of talking about us, and we think we're pretty okay. Is that the culture and the job and the owner and the boss might just kind of suck?
Well, yeah, I see it kind of in two categories. Like answering the question, why is there such high turnover in our industry? One of the categories is this is just how it is. There's not much you can do about it. Yeah. This is the nature of our industry. And then there's the stuff that you can do something about, which is like creating the culture that is conducive for people to flourish.
Yeah.
And I
mean, even everything that I just laid out,
Thank you.
Thank you, Riley.
Everything that we just laid out, it is still true. Even with us, that the reason that these things happen, the reason that the negative things happen is because we suck.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
suck.
Sure.
And it's just a matter of looking at those things and sucking less.
That's right.
Progressively sucking less.
Yes. Maybe the last thing I'd say is maybe instead of looking at it in the lens of that's just the way it happens, people leave. Oftentimes turnover is great. We didn't touch on that much, but like when some people move on, it's like, I'm so happy you're moving on.
Yeah.
Like we had a guy who his passion was to be a fireman, a firefighter. It's like, please go do that.
Police,
go do that. Or someone who wants to have their own cafe, like an Elijah. Mm-hmm. Not that was a direct one-to-one, but like, yeah, you can't have your own cafe at Valor. It's kind of ours right now. You probably just got to go do your own thing. So naturally, and that's another point of hiring really motivated, high achieving dogs is that those dogs are hungry. And they got to eat, and we can feed them for a while. You know,
Those dogs will hunt.
they'll hunt, man. They got to move. They got to run. So not all turnover is bad. I think we're just highlighting that there's some negative aspects to high turnover that can be diminished.
Yeah. At the same time, though, like
No,
if you're talking
no.
purely business and not talking about developing people, which I don't even know why you want to talk about that, but like
Boring.
like turnover is bad. Like I wish Elijah still worked at Valor. You know,
No,
like
you don't.
that. Well, I do and I don't.
For the company, but maybe not for Elijah.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly my point. And
You corporate, you're the embodiment of
blood-sucking-
greed.
yeah, no, I get it.
Leech.
I get it. You know what I'm saying though? Like you,
Well, if you knew it was like a good job, and that comes back to the money thing.
Mhm.
Like if you could pay Elijah an adult $1 to work for you forever, that
I
sounds
would.
good.
Right.
But how many adult dollars can you spend?
Yeah. Yes.
At your little tiny coffee shop, your little tiny cart little thing making the frappuccinos.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it goes back to the nature of the industry. Yeah.
Sounds like we solved it.
Jeez.
All right, we got to wrap, but it's been fun, guys.
It's been real.
Thanks for the discussion.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week. Love you. Bye.